Masechet Zevaḥim, Daf Chaf Dalid, Omed al gabe kelim, al gabe behema, al gabe ragle chavero pasul. We continue with the next items in the Mishnah. If a kohen is standing on top of vessels, or on top of an animal, or on the feet of someone else, and he does a service, the korban is pasul. He has to be barefoot, and he has to be standing on the floor of the temple courtyard. Minelan, what's the source? Tetana deber b'Ishmael, ho'il v'ritzpa mekadeshet, uchle sharet mekadeshim. Ma kele sharet lo yehe davar choses beno leben, kele sharet, af ritzpa lo yehe davar choses beno leben harizpa. There's a baraita from the school of the Ishmael that teaches that the floor of the Bet HaMikdash is sanctified. It was sanctified when the Bet HaMikdash was built, and also the vessels in the Bet HaMikdash are also sanctified. They have to be sanctified in order to be able to use them. So just like a temple vessel, which the Kohen has to use to receive blood, for example, he has to be holding it, and there cannot be any interposition between his skin and the temple vessel. He can't be wearing a glove or having a bandage. He has to touch it directly. Therefore, it makes sense that also the floor, there cannot be any interposition, but rather he has to be barefoot, and his skin of his feet have to be touching the floor itself. And therefore, if there's anything in between, then it's no good. Utsiricha diyash minan keli mishum de labina de basar ninu aval behema de mina de basar hu emala. Now, why do we need all three examples? Because if you only told me about a vessel, I might have thought that a vessel is considered an interposition because it's not made out of flesh. But maybe an animal that's made out of flesh, it will be okay. It's still organic, natural flesh that I am standing on. I might think it's okay. Therefore, it says no. Standing on an animal also no good. V'yashminan behema delamina de'adamhu aval chavero de'adamhu emala sericha. And if you told me an animal which is not a human, I might have thought, oh, that's why it's a problem. He's standing on an animal. But if he stood on a human, meaning he put his own feet on top of his friend's feet, it could be cold mid-winter time, and the floor is cold, so he wants to warm up and put his feet on his friend's feet. So I might think that that's okay because it's still a human being. And so therefore it's more similar. And so then maybe that's not an interposition. And that's why it says, not only can you not stand on a vessel, you even cannot stand on flesh of an animal. You even cannot stand on another human being's feet. Your own feet have to be on the floor. Tanya, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Raglo achat al keli v'raglo achat al rispa, Raglo achat al eben v'raglo achat al rispa ro'in. Kol shili natel keli v'tinatel eben, yachol amod al raglo achat v'ya'abod, abodato keshera, v'im lav, abodato pesula. Braita teaches that, according to Rabbi Eliezer, if a kohen has 1 foot on a vessel, and 1 foot on the floor, or 1 foot on a stone, and 1 foot on the floor, and he does a service, what's the law? Well, we look. If we see that if we were to take away the vessel or take away the stone, would he fall down? That means he has a lot of weight on it. Then that's a problem. But let's say he could still stand up, meaning he's putting most of his weight on the floor, on the foot that's directly on the floor. So if he could stand on that 1 foot and do the service, so like he's standing on 1 foot, that's okay. You could stand on 1 foot and do a service. And so if the other one, the other foot is on, it's true, it's resting on the stone or on the vessel, but it does not have a lot of weight on it. So if you would remove it and still he would be standing on 1 foot and he does the service, that's okay. But if not, if he has a lot of weight on the other and he would not be able to stand up on 1 foot, then that korban will be pasul. But Rabbi Meir had a dilemma. What if one of the stone tiles of the Bet HaMikdash floor was loose and he's standing upon that? What do we say? Is that considered still part of the ground, or is it an interposition? If they don't have in mind to reconnect it, then for sure it's a chatzitza, it's an interposition, because it's just a loose tile. It's like having a stone or a vessel on the floor. It doesn't belong there. They're not planning on putting it back. on reattaching it. So then for sure it's no good. The question rather is when they intend to reattach it. They're just waiting for the carpenter to come. He has to come and reattach it. So the intention is that it will be permanent there. Do we say since the intention is that they're going to attach it, it's as if it's already attached. Okay, it'll happen in the next few days when they get a chance to do it, but it's considered part of the floor because of the intention? Or do we say, no, we look right now, it's not attached, so therefore right now, sorry, it's not part of the floor, and he cannot stand on it. Rabba Zuti ba'e lahachi, ba'e Rabbi Ameh. That was one version of Rabbi Ameh's question, but Rabba Zuti, his tradition was that Rabbi Ameh asked the question slightly differently, and asked, again, one of the stone tiles came loose, and he stood in the empty spot. He's not standing, in this version, he's not standing on the tile, but rather on the empty ground, on the ground that's beneath the tile. What about that? Wait, let's clarify this question. What exactly is he asking? Maybe he's asking, when King David sanctified the floor, although only his son, King Shlomo, built the Bet HaMikdash, but already King David was making preparations, and he already sanctified the floor. When he did that, did he only sanctify the top layer of the floor of the temple courtyard, or was it all the way down, all the way down even to the foundations and layers underneath? And so that would make a difference. If he sanctified the depths all the way down, so it doesn't matter. Even if the top rock came off, okay, but it's sanctified all the way down, so then the service is still good. But if he only sanctified the top layer, and now that top layer of rock was removed, then it would not be good. So is that his question? Well, then why is he asking just about one area, one tile, one stone being removed? Why doesn't he ask about the entire temple courtyard? What if the entire floor is removed and they're leveling it out and move the entire thing, which actually in fact happened in the time of Herod. Herod chopped off the entire top of the mountain, pushed it down to the side so that he can make the area bigger. So why not ask a bigger question like that? And then it would be that would be a more relevant question if it depended on whether the entire mountain underneath was sanctified or not. But he didn't ask it that way. He asked only about one rock being removed. So rather, Rabbi Ameh is not asking that. He knows, yes, King David, in fact, sanctified the mountain all the way, even the lower layers. So that's for sure. And if you removed the entire floor and stood on the layer below it, that would be fine. Rather, his question is as follows: derech shirut bekach or en derech shirut bekach teko? Is this a normal way of service to be standing on an area that's a little bit lower than all the rest of them, or is that not the normal way of service? I mean, if it's level and you take off the whole thing, yeah, it's sanctified all the way down. But here you have flooring, you have stones, and then the stone is removed, so it looks off. So do you say, well, that's not the way you would serve, that's not a normal thing, it's no good, or it doesn't matter because it's all sanctified anyway underneath? Either version of the question of Rabbi Ameh, we don't answer and we leave it open-ended. Teko. The next item in the Mishnah says, Kibel bismol pasul ve'Rabbi Shimon machshir. If a Kohen received the blood using his left hand, holding a bowl in his left hand, it's no good according to Tana Kama. Rabbi Shimon, however, says it's fine. Tenor banan, bespa'o ve'lakach, melamed shelo teh kabbalah ela biyamin. Bespa'o ve'natan, melamed shelo teh netina ela biyamin. The source for the Tana Kama is from this pasuk here regarding a korban chatat that a kohen brings. It says ve'lakach. The word ve'lakach is to take. That's referring to Kabbalah, receiving the blood that comes out of the neck of the animal in a bowl. Ve'lakach hakohen midam hachatat be'espa'o. It says the word be'espa'o, that's going to be significant. And then it says ve'natan, and he will place it al kanot mizbach ha'olah ve'tamu yishpoch yesod mizbach ha'olah. And he will place it on the corners of the mizbeach. Now, the word be'espa'o, you see, is technically part of the first half, like be'espa'o, and the zakef katon is like a comma, and then venatan. But actually, he's using his finger in order to dab the blood onto the mizbeach. And technically, he's not actually using his finger to receive it, he's using his hand, his entire hand, to hold the bowl. So it's interesting that it says be'etzba'ah. Anyway, the point is, etzba, finger, is still part of the hand. And the word be'etzba'ah, we learn from a gezer hashava that's coming up later on the daf, but I'll just show you now. The gezer hashava is from a mesorah. It says regarding the mesorah, v'tabal hakohen et etzba'ah haymanit, specifically says the right finger. And from that we learn that anytime you see the word etzba, it's referring to the right finger. So, just like there you have, etzba is the right finger, and by mesorah, so too here, in this pasuk, it will be a right finger. Therefore, we see the word be'espa'ah does double duty here, and it refers both to the taking, the Kabbalah, which even though it's done with the whole hand, still has to be the right hand, and also the placing on the Mizbeach has to be with the right finger. Okay, so that's the source for Tanakama. So back here, that's the Biyamin. Amar Rabbi Shimon, v'chi ne'emra yad b'Kabbalah. Rabbi Shimon says, I don't agree with that derivation because it doesn't say the word yad. When you do Kabbalah, you use your hand, not just a finger. Ela be'etzba'o v'natan. So rather, he's reading the word be'etzba'o to be going with the next word. V'lakach hakohen midam hachatat. The kohen is going to do Kabbalah, and that's with his hand. It doesn't say the word hand, it doesn't say the word finger, so therefore right or left, it doesn't matter. And then it says, and so therefore be'espa'o cannot be referring to the Kabbalah, but rather only to the zedikah. So therefore, it doesn't say yad b'Kabbalah. No, ela be'espa'o v'natan shelo netina ela biyamin. So therefore, while netina has to be only with the right finger, but Kabbalah doesn't say that. Ho'il v'lo ne'emra yad b'Kabbalah kibel b'smol kasher. Since it doesn't say anything, the word yad or anything by the word regarding the Kabbalah. Therefore, if the Kohen used his left hand, that's okay. Rabbi Shimon, mima nafshach? I'it legezer hashava ki lo ne'emra yad b'Kabbalah may haveh. V'ilet legezer hashava ki ne'emra yad b'Kabbalah may haveh. Now we ask about Rabbi Shimon. Either way, if he agrees with that gezer hashava, and therefore every time it says etzba, it's referring to the right. So even if it doesn't say the word yad regarding Kabbalah, so what? Why can't you just say the word etzba is always referring to the right? And even though it doesn't say the word yad, it says etzba right there, and it's actually technically in the clause of Kabbalah, and gezer hashava, espa always means right, so therefore say it means the right also. And if he doesn't have a gezer hashava, then even if it would say yad, it doesn't matter because yad just means a hand. We don't know that it means the right hand if you don't have the gezer hashava. So we want some clarification about Rabbi Shimon. Does he agree with the gezer hashava or not? Amar Rav Yehuda, leolam let gezer hashava. V'achi kamar, v'chi ne'emar yad yamin b'Kabbalah, ho'il ve'lo ne'emar yad yamin b'Kabbalah, kibel b'smol kasher. So Rav Yehuda says, in fact, Rabbi Shimon does not agree with that gezer hashava. And so therefore he's saying as follows. Does it say the word Yad Yamin regarding Kabbalah? It doesn't say Yad Yam. That's what he meant. It doesn't say Yad Yamim. Even if you read the word Etzba, Yad, let's take them as synonymous. Even if you read Etzba to be related to Velakach, but still it doesn't say it's the right one because it doesn't have the Gezer HaShavah. And therefore, if you use the left hand, that's fine. Amar le Rabbah, v'chi afilu netina nameh. Rabbah says that doesn't make sense. If he doesn't agree with the gezer hashava, then even netina should be with the left hand because it just says etzba, so that should mean right or left. But Rabbi Shimon agrees with Chachamim that netina has to be with the right finger. So how could you say that he doesn't agree with the gezer hashava? Ve'od v'chi let Rabbi Shimon gezer hashava v'atanya Rabbi Shimon omer kol makom shenemar yad ena ela yamin etzba ena ela yamin. How could you say he doesn't have the gezer hashava? In a braita, Rabbi Shimon himself says anytime it says the word yad, it means the right hand. Anytime it says the word etzba, it means the right hand. And how would he know that if not for the gezer hashava? And therefore, It's not that. It doesn't say yamin, that's his problem. No, because he has the gezer hashava. Rather, it must be something else. Ela marava. Leolam itla gezer hashava v'chikamar. V'chi nemra yad b'kabbalah. Hoil v'lo nemra yad b'kabbalah. Ela etzba. V'yefshar l'kabbalah be'etzba. Kibel b'smol kasher. So the Rava is clarifying now that in fact, Rabbi Shimon agrees with the gezer hashava. And if you had the word yad or etzba, either one means the right. But does it say the word yad regarding Kabbalah? No. It only says it doesn't say the word yad regarding Kabbalah. It only says etzba. And you can't receive blood with a finger. You can't hold a bowl with a finger, and you need a bowl to do so. And so therefore, the word etzba is talking about the netina. It's only going on that word. And it's forwards, and it's not going on the Kabbalah, and therefore you can use your left hand. Amar le Rav Sama bered Rav Asher Ravina. Ifshar de'avid le'ozen l'sfat mizrach u'mekabel ba. But Rav Sama, the son of Rav Asher, tells Ravina, I disagree with that analysis because actually you could do receiving of the blood with one finger. For example, you make a rim for the bowl, a small handle. You make a small handle on the rim of the bowl, so small that it fits only one finger. And then you can use one finger to hold the bowl and do Kabbalah with one finger. So there's no problem. Just because it doesn't say the word yad, you could still say that the word etzba is referring to receiving the blood, and you can receive the blood, and therefore the word etzba will go backwards and forwards, and etzba has to mean right. We established that Rabbi Shimon thinks that anytime it says the word etzba or yad, it means the right one, and the word etzba can refer to Kabbalah because you can hold the bowl with one finger. Rather, the essence of the machloket is whether we read this word etzba'o backwards and forwards. So according to Chachamim, we do read it backwards and forwards. The natural reading is in fact backwards. So that's clearly going to be the right finger, right hand for Kabbalah, and we're going to read it forwards also. Bespa'o v'natan. Rabbi Shimon Abar says, no, I'm going to read it only forwards. Bespa'o v'natan. That makes more sense because that is with the finger. And although technically you could find a way to use the finger to do Kabbalah, but that's not the normal way. So therefore he reads Be'esba'al only as going forward. It's right next to the word, Be'esba'al v'natan, right there. And he does not read it backwards. That's the essence of the machloket. Amar Abaye, had Rabbi Elazar beRabbi Shimon, mapeka me'de'avu, mapeka me'drabanan. Abaye says that the statement of Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, is not the same as his father, and not the same as Rabbanan. Rabbi Elazar has a third opinion, the Tanya. Rabbi Elazar beRabbi Shimon omer, kol makom shenemar etzba beKabbalah, shina beKabbalah pasul benetina kasher. Kol makom shenemar etzba benetina, shina benetina pasul beKabbalah kasher. So the Rabbi Elazar says, if the pasuk says the word etzba with regard to Kabbalah, then the Kabbalah will have to be with the right hand, and otherwise it's no good. But netina can be with the left hand because the word etzba is on Kabbalah. And any place where you find that the word etzba is said regarding netina, then only the netina has to be with the right hand. If the left hand is no good, but regarding Kabbalah, it's okay. So he could be machmir or mekel, depending one way or another, because it just says it just depends on where the word etzba is. Now we ask, ve'echan ne'emar etzba benetina, dichtiv ve'lakachta midam hapar ve'natata al kanot hamizbeach be'etzba'echa, ve'kasabar mikra nidrash lefanav ve'lo lifne fanav ula'acharav. Now where do we see an example of that the word etzba refers to netina only? It's from this pasuk from Sefer Shemot, talking about a par during the miluim. It says the kohen will take from the blood and put it on the corners of the mizbeach, and then it says the word be'etzba'echa. So it says one verb, v'lakachta, that's referring to Kabbalah, and then the next verb, v'natata, and only after that it says be'etzba'arecha. So this is a different order than the pasuk that we saw before. And also, Rabbi Elazar thinks that when we derive something from a pasuk, we apply the word to the immediately preceding verb, but not to the one that's to preceding, and not to the one that's afterwards. Therefore, in this case, you have the word be'etzbacha. The verb that immediately precedes is venatata. Therefore, only netina has to be with the right hand in this case. And velakachta, that's two before that's already too far away. So Kabbalah in this case can be with the left hand. On the other hand, in the pasuk that we were talking about before regarding this type of chatat, here we see that the word be'etzba'o is over here. So he says, well, you can go one before. Good, that will refer to Kabbalah. And it does not go, not to before, and it doesn't go to the one after either. Only to one before. Therefore, according to the Rabbi Elazar, he thinks that for a chatat, Kabbalah has to be with the right hand, but Nitina can be with the left hand. And that disagrees both with his father and disagrees also with Rabbanan. And so actually, Rabbi Elazar is going with the ta'amim of the pasuk, only that, and agreeing with, assuming that espa'o always means the right. So therefore, in that case, Kabbalah has to be with the right, but Netina could be with the left, according to the Rabbi Elazar. Amar Rabba bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kol makom shene'emar etzba uchuna ena ela yamin. Rabbi Yochanan has a principle that anytime you see in a pasuk that it refers to etzba and also to a kohen, that means that the kohen has to do that service with the right hand. What does Rabbi Yochanan mean exactly? Kasa kada'atin tarte ba'inan. Right now, let's assume that Rabbi Yochanan means that you need both of these elements in the pasuk. If you have one or only the other, then it could be with the left hand. But if you have both the word kohen and etzba in the pasuk, then it has to mean the right hand. כדכתיב, ולקח הכהן מדם החטאת באצבעו, ויליף ממסורה דכתיב, וטבל הכהן את אצבעו הימנית. And this is the gezerah shava that we were referring to before, that the kohen will take from the blood of a chatat offering, and it says etzba. So you have two elements, kohen and etzba. And we learn that from the context of Mesorah. During the purification ritual, the kohen will dip his finger and says etzba himanit. And so here we know it's the right finger. He dips it in oil and sprinkles it. And so here it also has kohen, and it says the word etzba. So when it has both elements, then you learn that has to be with the right hand. But one or only the other, maybe not. But that doesn't make sense. The pasuk regarding the meal offering, where the kohen takes a handful, there it says the word kohen, but it does not say the word etzba. And therefore, you see, and yet the law is in Mishnah Menachot that a kohen has to do kimitzah with the right hand. If you do it with the left hand, it's no good. And so it must be that just the word kohen by itself will be sufficient to learn that, because if you need the word yad or etzba, it doesn't exist with regard to the korban mincha. Ela amar Rava o etzba o kehuna. Rather, Rava says, when Rabbi Yochanan says etzba uchuna, it doesn't mean both, but rather any pasuk that has either the word etzba or the word kohen, that has to be with the right. אמר לאביי, והרי הולכת איברים לקבש, תכתיב בהו כהונה, תכתיב הקריב הכהן את הכל והקטיר המזבחה, ואמר מור, זו הולכת איברים לקבש, ותנן הרגל של ימין בשמאלו, ובית עורה לחוץ. Abaye says, no, that doesn't work, because what about the carrying of the limbs onto the ramp of the Mizbeach, where the pasuk says the word kohen, and says the kohen is going to bring all the pieces of the korban onto the Mizbeach, and the halacha is, and we know that this is referring to the bringing of the limbs onto the ramp. And the Mishnah in Masechet Tamid says that the right leg of the animal is carried by the kohen in his left hand, and when he carries it, the skin should be towards the outside. So you see here that a kohen is permitted, in fact, that's what he's mandated, to carry this limb in his left hand. And therefore, the carrying of limbs can be done with the left hand, but it says the word kohen. So if you say that either word, etzba or kohen, by themselves means the right hand, well then this is a contradiction to that. So Rava doesn't work. Or maybe we can answer it as follows, that this rule, if you say etzba or kohen has to be done with the right hand, that only applies to rituals that have to be done in order to receive atonement, like sprinkling and like receiving the blood. Like mitzorah also. It's necessary for the kohen to dip his finger and sprinkle that oil in order for the mitzorah to become pure. Whereas the placing of the limbs on the Mizbeach is not necessary for atonement of the one who brings it. And so maybe we'll make that distinction. But there's an exception to that, because regarding Kabbalah, receiving the blood, it says the word Kohen there, and receiving the blood is something that is necessary in order to receive atonement, and yet our Mishnah says, if the Kohen receives it in the left hand, it's no good, but according to Rabbi Shimon, it's okay. So Rabbi Shimon, the question is from Rabbi Shimon's opinion, since this is something necessary, and it says Kohen, so how could Rabbi Shimon say it's okay to do it in the left hand? So it must be that rule is wrong. So we answer, Rabbi Shimon tarteh. Rabbi Shimon needs both words, Kohen and etzba. The Tanakh Kama says one or the other, and one or the other with regard to a necessary ritual, then it has to be with the right hand. But Rabbi Shimon says you need both. But that doesn't work. Rabbi Shimon tarteh v'hatanya. Rabbi Shimon omer kol makom shenemar yad eno ela yamin. Etzba eno ela yamin. But does Rabbi Shimon really say you need both? He says that anytime you have the word yad or the word etzba, it means the right hand, even without the word kohen. So you see, Rabbi Shimon doesn't need the word kohen. Just the word etzba by itself means with the right hand. Etzba la baya kehuna, kehuna baya etzba. So answers, according to Rabbi Shimon, really it's only the word etzba. That's what's important. If you have the word etzba, it has to be with the right hand, even if they don't have the word kohen. If you have the word kohen, then that's not sufficient. You need the word etzba also. So really, according to Rabbi Shimon, it's not kohen and etzba, and it's not kohen or etzba, but rather it's just etzba. If so, vela kohen la mali bechi hunan. So what is the word kohen adding to anything if it doesn't matter? Because if it says etzba, it has to be right hand, otherwise not. And the answer is the word kohen will teach us that the kohen has to perform it when he is in his priestly state, meaning when he's wearing the garments of the kohen. A counter to this is zirika. Delaketu behu ela kehuna utan zarak bismol pasul vela palig Rabbi Shimon. For zirika, it only says the word kohen, and yet the Mishnah teaches that if he sprinkled with his left hand, it's no good. And Rabbi Shimon agrees that if he sprinkled with his left hand, it's no good. And there, it only says the word kohen. So why would Rabbi Shimon say that? If he only requires the word etzba, and without the word etzba, it could be with the left hand, how come Rabbi Shimon says zerika can only be with the right hand? Amar Abaye palig babraita detanya. Kibel bismol pasul v'Rabbi Shimon machshir zarak bismol pasul v'Rabbi Shimon machshir. Actually, there is a braita which says that Rabbi Shimon in fact disagrees regarding zirika. So this will depend on what type of korban it is. So regarding chatat that we were talking about before, that's where Rabbi Shimon says it has to be with the right hand. But in this braita it says for other korbanot, if he received it in the left hand, it's no good according to the Takama. But Rabbi Shimon says it's okay. That's Kabbalah. So that's that was same as our Mishnah. And here, zirika bismol, according to Tanakama, is no good. But Rabbi Shimon says, even zirika can be with the right hand. And so you see that this is consistent according to Rabbi Shimon. You need the word etzba. If you have the word etzba by itself, then has to be with the right hand. If you have the word kohen only, then it does not have to be with the right hand. It has to be with the priestly clothing, but does not have to be with the right hand. So now we found the rule that fits according to Rabbi Shimon. Elahad amar Rava, yad lekmisa, regel lachalisa, ozen lirsi'a, lamali, midraba bar hana nafka. And now we go back to the Tanakama, not Rabbi Shimon, who said, according to the last interpretation, if you have either the word kohen or the word etzba or the word yad, it means it has to be with the right. Then what are you going to tell me about this statement of Rava? Rava says that when it comes to this pasuk, that regarding Metzorah, it says v'lakach midam ha'asham v'natanu kohen al tenuch ozen mitahar hamanit v'albo yado hamanit v'albo raglo hamanit. The kohen will take some of the blood and put it on the right ear of the Metzorah who wants to become tahor, and also on his right toe and on his right thumb and on his right toe. And we learn from this we can compare these words, yad, gezerah shava, to another yad. It also says yad regarding kimisa, and from there we learn that kimisa has to be done with the right hand. And regel, we learn a gezerah shavat chalitza, that when you have a chalutza, she has to take off the right shoe of the yavam. And from ozen we learned that if an eved ivri wants to stay longer, then you have to make a hole in his right ear. Now we ask, why do you need the gezerah shavat for yad? After all, we could figure it out from the ruling of Rabba Bar Hana in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, because it does say the word kohen regarding the meal offering, and therefore, why do we need another derivation of yad? Incidentally, it does not actually say the word yad regarding kemitzah. It does say kapo. Okay, but kaf means a palm, so it has the same meaning as a yad, so we still allow that as a gezer hashava. So that's the question. Why do we need this gezer hashava if we can learn it from the general ruling that if you have the word kohen by itself, then it already has to be with the right hand? And the answer is chad lakometz v'chad kiddush kometz. We need two of them because there's two steps for the kemitzah. One is for actually taking the flour into his hand, has to do with the right hand, and the other is by sanctifying it into a holy vessel, and that vessel has to be held with the right hand. How could he do two things with the right hand? The answer is there's two kohanim, and each one is using the right hand. So one kohen is going to take from the bowl that has all the flour in it, and he's going to pick it up and take a fistful with his right hand, and then he's going to put it into another bowl, a smaller one, that a kohen is holding with his right hand. And that's why we need these two derivations. Now we ask, Rabbi Shimon de la ba'ai kiddush kometz, ulman damar Rabbi Shimon name ba'ai kiddush kometz bismol achshure machshar yad rava lamali. But now let's turn the question to Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon holds that you don't need to put the kometz into another service vessel. You don't have to do sanctification of it. The Kohen can just take the kometz with his hand and then take it directly on the mizbeach. That's one opinion in Gemara Menachot. Another opinion says, Rabbi Shimon says you do need to sanctify it, but he says you can do it with the left hand. So either way, we don't need a derivation for the right hand for Rabbi Shimon. So according to him, why do you need this derivation of yad? Tamar Rav Yehuda b'nei Rabbi Chia. My Tamad Rabbi Shimon. Tamar Kera Kodesh Kadashim Hi Kachatat Vecha Asham. Now Rabbi Shimon is not going to use the word Kohen because he says the word Kohen by itself is not sufficient. It has to say the word Etzba or Yad, and it doesn't say those words here. And therefore, Rabbi Shimon has another derivation. And so he says, Kimitzatzma, the actual taking of the flour has to be done with the right hand. And the derivation that Rabbi Shimon will use is that was expressed by Rav Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Chia. He says, what is the derivation of Rabbi Shimon? Because the pasuk says, regarding a korban mincha, it's kodesh kodashim, like a chatat and like an asham. What do you mean, like an chatat and like an asham? Just say it's kodesh kodashim. Why do you have to tell me it's like this and that? Ba le'obda bayad, obda biyamin kachatat. Ba le'obda bikli, obda bismol ka'asham. This pasuk that says korban mincha is kodesh kodashim, like chatat, like asham, is actually giving you options and says, you take the kimitzah, the kimitzah itself has to be done with the right hand. But now, when you're going to burn it, you have a choice. You can burn it directly from your hand. If you're going to do that, then you have to use your right hand. And like a chatat, a korban chatat, the sprinkling has to be done with the right hand. The sprinkling of blood of a chatat onto the mizbeach is equivalent to taking the flour and burning it on the mizbeach. And therefore, if you're going to do it by hand, then you have to take it by hand from the bowl, do kemitzah, and put it on the mizbeach also with your right hand. However, you have a choice. If you want to use a service vessel, then you're going to take also, do kemitzah with the right hand, and then you can take from there and put it into a service vessel, and then that service vessel, the Kohen can use his left hand in order to put it onto the mizbeach. And that, in that sense, is like an asham. An asham can be placed. You can put the blood of the asham onto the mizbeach with using your left hand with a service vessel. And that's why this pasuk says both that the korban mincha is like a chatat and also like an asham. But we do see from here that the kimitzah itself has to be done with the right hand. Therefore, back to the question, according to the Bishimon, why do you need the gezerah shava for yad yad? And the answer is la nitzracha ela lekometz minchat hoteh. Tzalka datecha mina ho'il ve'amar Rabbi Shimon shelo yehe korbano mehudar ki kamas la bismo nametit kashar kamash malan. And we still need the gezerah shava for the meal offering of a sinner. That's a korban olev yored if he's poor and he made such a sin, then he brings a flour offering. I might have thought that since, according to the Bishimon, this korban does not have to be of superior quality because it's from a sinner. So maybe it could be done in a lowly manner, and therefore even with the left hand might be good. Therefore, I need the gezerah shava, yad yad, to teach me that, no, it has to be done also with the right hand, even if it's a mincha of a sinner. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, amen ve'amen.